You're about to hear a story of deception so calculated it'll make you question how well you really know anyone, even those closest to you. In the early hours of June 29, 2001, Patti Adkins, a 29-year-old single mother, clocked out of her shift at the Honda plant in Marysville, Ohio. She was last seen 19 seconds after midnight. By morning, she was gone, leaving behind her car, her belongings, and her 7-year-old daughter. Patty thought she was in love. Her boyfriend thought he had the perfect alibi. But tiny details, like cat hairs stuck on a truck cover and a failed polygraph, hinted at a truth no one wanted to admit. And what happened to the $90,000 she withdrew? And where did Patty vanish? On the surface, her life looked stable, but secrets Patty kept would soon come to light. Join me for another odd, strange, and mysterious story here at Odd Mystery Stories. To outsiders, Patti Adkins seemed to have it all under control. She was a respected shift supervisor at the Honda plant, known for her reliability and drive. Her coworkers saw her as someone who went the extra mile, often staying late to make sure everything was in order for the next shift. Rumors of an upcoming promotion only added to the sense that Patty's life was on the right track. Her 7-year-old daughter, Michaeli, was her pride and joy, and she kept her household running smoothly. But everything changed when Patty started seeing a married coworker from another production line. Their relationship began quietly, with short conversations during breaks at work. Over time, those breaks turned into something more. The man, who co-owned a side auto business with his brother-in-law, told Patty he was planning to leave his wife. He painted a picture of a future together, one that required patience, secrecy, and eventually money. Patty's sisters, Marcia and Janine, noticed a difference in her. She became guarded, less willing to share details about her life. When Janine confronted her about the affair, Patty insisted that everything would work out, that he would pay her back once the divorce was finalized. Marcia worried about Patty's growing tendency to make excuses for him, but Patty brushed off their concerns. She was determined to believe in the promise of a new beginning. The money started out as small withdrawals from her savings, then escalated. Patty cashed out stocks and even took out a second mortgage on her home. Over 18 months, she handed over nearly $90,000 to her boyfriend, every dollar given in cash advances and loans, leaving no paper trail. He said it was to buy out his wife's share of the auto shop, supposedly the last barrier to their shared future. For a single mother, this was an enormous sacrifice, but Patty trusted him completely. Their relationship was built on secrecy. At work, they kept things discreet, limiting contact to quick breaks. Outside of Honda, their rare meetings took place at his auto shop, with Patty booking appointments as cover. There were no public dates, no open displays of affection. The need for secrecy added tension, but Patty believed it was only temporary. She convinced herself that once his divorce was final, they could finally be together without hiding. The strain began to show, however. Patty, usually punctual and focused, started arriving late and seemed distracted during her shifts. Friends and coworkers picked up on her unease, but she always had an explanation. She told them the money was just a short-term loan, a necessary step before everything changed for the better. At home, her family grew more alarmed. Marcia noticed Patty becoming evasive, especially about her plans for Michaeli. Unusual requests for last-minute child care and arrangements for her pets raised red flags. But Patty reassured everyone that it was all temporary. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Patty's preparations became more intense. She paid to board her dog, arranged extended child care for Michaeli, and withdrew another large sum of cash. When questioned about the need for so much money, she stuck to her story. It was for the auto shop buyout, the final step before she and her boyfriend could start their new life together. Only, Marcia knew about the planned trip to Canada. The details sounded strange. Patty was told not to bring luggage, to hide in the bed of a truck, and to keep everything secret. Marcia pressed her for answers, but Patti wouldn't hear any doubts. She was all in, convinced this was the turning point she'd been waiting for. As June 29th approached, Patti had risked everything: her savings, her security, her daughter's stability, for a promise she was desperate to believe. The stage was set for a night that would change everything, and the choices Patti made would soon leave everyone searching for answers. June 29, 2001 marked the last time anyone saw Patti Adkins. That night at the Honda plant, she clocked out at exactly 19 seconds past midnight, an unusually early exit for someone known for staying late. Patti walked out in her white Honda uniform, heading straight for the parking lot. She wasn't running errands or meeting friends. She was following a plan that was secretive, risky, and carefully orchestrated. Her boyfriend's instructions were clear. Patti arranged for a coworker to drive her to work, leaving her own car parked at her apartment. After her shift, she was to hide in the bed of his pickup truck under a tonneau cover, while he drove a coworker home first. This setup was supposed to keep their relationship hidden, but it meant Patti would be completely concealed. No phone, no fresh air, no way to communicate or to get out until he let her out. She packed only a small teal duffel bag with a single piece of lingerie, leaving her suitcase and all of her clothes untouched at home. He told her they'd buy everything they needed once they reached their destination in Canada. Patti's preparations for her absence were meticulous. She arranged for her ex-husband to care for McKaylee and boarded her pets, paying for 2 weeks in advance. To her family, she explained away the lack of luggage and the secrecy as necessary for the trip. When Marcia pressed her about the odd details, why she couldn't meet him somewhere, why she had to hide, Patti brushed it off, insisting it was just until things settled down with his divorce. She seemed nervous, but hopeful. When Marcia dropped her off at work that night, she had no idea that it would be the last time she'd see her sister. For 9 days, no one suspected anything was wrong. Patti had told coworkers she was taking vacation, and her family believed she was on her long-awaited trip. But on July 8th, when Patti didn't return to pick up McKaylee, Marcia's concerns turned to panic. She called the boyfriend's house. His wife answered, claiming he wasn't home, but Marcia could hear his voice in the background. When he finally got on the line, he denied everything: no relationship, no trip, and no contact with Patti at all. His cold, dismissive tone sent a chill through Marcia, and she filed a missing person report that same day. The investigation quickly uncovered troubling gaps. The boyfriend told police he left work with a friend, stopped at Burger King, and then went home, claiming the drive-thru took 45 minutes. But Burger King staff said the line never took more than 10 or 15 minutes that night. Security footage didn't match his story, and his truck was spotted in places that contradicted his alibi. Police searched his pickup truck and found evidence that raised even more questions. Cadaver dogs alerted strongly to the tonneau cover. Forensic technicians found cat hairs matching Patti's pets, animals she spent time with before leaving for work. There was a small, dark spot on the cover that tested positive for blood, but in 2001, the sample was too small for DNA analysis. Notably, no DNA evidence from Patti was found in the truck bed itself, a detail that only deepened the mystery. Back at Patti's apartment, her car remained untouched in the parking lot. The teal duffel was gone, but her suitcase, packed with clothes, sat undisturbed in her bedroom. The pet boarding receipt confirmed she planned to be away for 2 weeks, suggesting she fully expected to come home. Friends and family replayed the days before she vanished, searching for missing warning signs. Patti had trusted her boyfriend completely, following his instructions even when they seemed strange. She believed in the promise of a future together, but after June 29th, there was only silence. As investigators dug deep, the boyfriend's story began to unravel. What he told the police didn't match the evidence, and the secrets he tried to keep hidden were about to come to light. From the start, the boyfriend's account of his relationship with Patti was built on denial. When police questioned him, he insisted she was just a coworker, nothing more than a familiar face from the Honda plant. He said they had no plans to travel together, no secret romance, and certainly no connection to her disappearance. But investigators quickly saw through the act. His answers felt rehearsed, his body language defensive, and the evidence began to pile up against him. A search of his home told a different story. Detectives found a handwritten letter from Patti, full of emotion and hope for their future. The letter was intimate, not the sort of note exchanged between distant colleagues. Alongside it, they discovered a Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt and a Harley-Davidson phone Patti had gifted him. These personal items, coupled with his wife's initial denial of knowing anything about Patti, made his attempts to downplay the relationship look desperate and calculated. His alibi for the night Patti vanished didn't hold up. He claimed he left work with a friend and waited 45 minutes at a Burger King drive-thru before heading home. But Burger King staff said the longest wait was only 10 to 15 minutes. Surveillance footage also didn't support his timeline, leaving a substantial gap during the hours Patti disappeared. The story he told police didn't match up with the facts, and that gap became one of the investigation's most troubling questions. Forensic evidence from his truck made things even more suspicious. Cadaver dogs alerted to the tonneau cover, which he had installed just a week before Patti went missing. When technicians examined the cover, they found cat hairs, later matched to Patti's cats, embedded in the fabric. There was also a small spot on the cover, but the sample wasn't large enough for DNA testing at the time. The absence of Patti's DNA inside the truck bed didn't clear him. Instead, the timing of the cover's installation and removal, along with the cat hair, pointed to her presence in the vehicle. His behavior after Patti's disappearance only raised more red flags. He failed the polygraph on key questions, showing clear signs of deception, though results weren't admissible in court. Not long after, he removed the tonneau cover and quit his job at Honda, despite being in line for a promotion. Investigators noted how quickly he tried to distance himself from anything that might connect him to Patti. His story shifted as pressure mounted. At first, he denied any plans for a trip to Canada. When confronted with witnesses who had heard Patti talk about it, he changed course, suggesting she must have misunderstood. He insisted there was no financial connections, but couldn't explain the nearly $90,000 Patti had withdrawn over the preceding months. None of it showed up in his accounts, and yet his debt seemed to disappear and his truck got a new upgrade. The more detectives pressed, the more his explanations unraveled. Even those closest to him began to question his honesty. His wife, who initially supported his alibi, later admitted she'd never heard of Patti, despite the letter and gifts found in her own home. His brother told police the boyfriend confessed to being in over his head, though that statement wasn't admissible. These cracks within his own family made his denial seem even less believable. Every piece of evidence pointed to a man desperate to hide the truth. He tried to explain away the t-shirt and phone as meaningless, insisted the money was a fantasy, and blamed Patti for inventing an affair, but the facts didn't back him up. The web of lies he spun only trapped him further, each new contradiction exposing just how much he had to lose if the truth came out. While investigators pressed for answers, another side of the story was emerging, one written not in words but in numbers. Patti's financial records would reveal just how much she risked for a promise she believed in. Money leaves a trail, but in Patti's case, it's a trail that raises more questions than it answers. Her bank records show a steady, relentless drain on every asset she had. Over roughly 18 months, Patti went from small withdrawals to handing over nearly everything she owned, all for a future she believed was just within reach. It began with her savings. At first, Patti would take out a few $100s here and there, always on payday. Soon, she started using cash advances from her credit cards, pulling out the maximum allowed, sometimes $3,000 at a time. She never repaid these advances, letting the balances balloon while she handed the cash directly to her boyfriend. The pattern was always the same: cash in, cash out. No payments to the card companies and no receipts left behind. Police would later note how this made the money almost impossible to trace. The biggest move came with her home. In May of 2000, Patti took out a $25,000 second mortgage. For about a year, she made regular payments, but then just 9 days before she disappeared, she paid off that loan with a new $39,000 second mortgage. This maneuver left her with about $14,000 in cash right before she vanished. Investigators found withdrawal slips showing most of that money left her account in the final week, suggesting urgent pressure to hand over as much as she could. Patti liquidated other assets. She cashed out about $6,000 in stocks, even though she'd only recently invested in them. Each sale, her family later realized, lined up with a new request from her boyfriend. Sometimes he said he needed the money for, quote, business equipment. Other times it was, quote, legal fees for a divorce that never seemed to move forward. The explanations changed, but the result was always the same. Patti found a way to get him more cash. The money, according to him, was supposed to buy out his wife's share of the auto repair shop. He told Patti that was the last hurdle before they could finally be together. But when investigators looked into the business and his accounts, none of her money appeared anywhere. There were no deposits, no checks, no sign the cash ever made it into the shop. Every withdrawal led to a dead end, just like Patti's sudden disappearance. The financial pattern only got more desperate as June 2001 approached. Patti's notebook, found in her bedroom, showed a running tally of every dollar she gave him. The total, $89,600. Each entry was marked with a note, quote, shop parts, lawyer retainer, last payment. The final entry was dated June 28th, the day before she vanished, and matched a $6,000 withdrawal. She told her sister that night that the money issues were finally over and that this was the last step before her new life could begin. Even as she drained her accounts, Patti's boyfriend seemed to get a sudden financial boost. He paid off personal loans, upgraded his truck, and caught up on mortgage payments, moves his wife couldn't explain, especially since their business was struggling. Still, police couldn't connect Patti's missing cash directly to him. The boyfriend denied ever receiving the money, and with no receipts or bank records, the trail simply stopped. For those left behind, the missing money is more than a financial mystery. It's a symbol of the trust Patti placed in someone who saw her vulnerability. Her careful, methodical approach to money vanished in the face of promises she wanted so badly to believe. As the financial records ran dry, so did the hope of finding a simple answer. The people who loved Patti most were left to pick up the pieces, searching for a truth in the gaps she left behind. For Patti's family, the search for answers has never let up. The immediate shock of her disappearance gave way to years of tireless effort, a campaign to keep her case alive, to make sure her name never faded from memory, and to push for the justice that always seemed just out of reach. Patti's daughter, McKaylee, was just 7 years old when her mother vanished. Now, more than 2 decades later, McKaylee is nearly 30, having grown up in the shadow of a case that shaped every chapter of her life. School milestones passed without her mother's presence. Each birthday, every holiday, came with the reminder of the unanswered questions that lingered in their home. The absence left by Patti's disappearance isn't just a memory. It's a daily reality for McKaylee and for everyone who loved her. The fight didn't stop with Patti's immediate family. Her sisters Marcia and Janine have been relentless in their advocacy, determined to keep the investigation in the public eye. They have appeared on multiple true crime shows, given interviews to local and national media, and used every platform available to share Patty's story. For them, each television appearance, every podcast episode is a chance to reach someone who might know something, a chance that a single detail could finally break the silence. Marcia, in particular, has become the family's lead voice. She's held on to case files, organized timelines, and kept in close contact with investigators, never letting the trail go cold. In 2016, in an interview, Marcia said, quote, "I don't have hope that my sister's alive. I knew when she didn't return that she was not alive, but I have hope that justice will happen, that someone will be held accountable for her death." Her words capture the family's painful acceptance of the likely outcome, but also their refusal to let the case slip into obscurity. The boyfriend, still living and working in the same Ohio town, remains at the center of suspicion. He continues to run his auto repair shop, rarely speaking about the case. When a Crime Watch Daily reporter confronted him in 2019, his response was measured and guarded. Quote, "I can't tell you anything. Talk to my lawyer." He offered nothing more, and his silence has only deepened the family's frustration. While he moves through daily life, Patty's loved ones feel trapped in a cycle of waiting, watching as the years pass and the case grows colder. Law enforcement hasn't abandoned the investigation. The Union County Sheriff's Office still classifies Patty's disappearance as a homicide, even without a body. In 2018, they posted a renewed public appeal on Facebook, asking for any information that might help solve the case. Central Ohio Crime Stoppers continues to offer a cash reward for tips leading to Patty's discovery. The case remains open, and every so often, a new detective reviews the evidence, searching for a lead that might finally move things forward. Online, the debate continues. Locals speculate about what really might have happened, and many point fingers at the same suspect the family believes is responsible. But after all their appeals, what remains the strongest barrier to charges? A missing body, and a legal system that demands certainty. Ohio law allows homicide prosecutions without a body, but prosecutors are hesitant without physical evidence. The case is built on circumstantial details, the failed polygraph, the suspicious financial transactions, the cat hairs and blood on the tonneau cover. Each piece points in the same direction, but none alone is enough to satisfy a jury. The boyfriend's refusal to cooperate since lawyering up has stalled investigators, leaving them waiting for a breakthrough, a new witness, a forensic advance, or a confession. The emotional toll on the family is visible in small, quiet moments. Marcia feels the tension built every year as June 29th approaches. McKaylee struggles to balance memories of her mother with the void left behind. Holidays are marked by empty spaces and unspoken questions. The lack of closure means the grief never really fades. It changes shape, settling into the routines of daily life. Yet hope persists. The family believes someone out there knows the truth. Maybe a coworker who heard a stray remark. Maybe a friend who kept a secret. Maybe someone who could finally point to where Patty was hidden. They appeal to the public's conscience. It's not too late to do the right thing. As the years go by, they hold on to the possibility that one tip, one new piece of evidence could finally change everything. Still, the case remains unsolved. The search for answers continues, the questions only growing sharper with time. And as the investigation stalls, the sense of uncertainty settles in, leaving everyone to wonder if the truth will ever come to light. When you look at the Patti Adkins case, it's hard not to feel the weight of everything that's missing. No body, no murder weapon, no confession. What's left is a tangle of circumstantial evidence that keeps pointing in one direction: a married boyfriend, a secret relationship, and nearly $90,000 that vanished along with Patty. Prosecutors know that no body homicide cases can be won, Former federal prosecutor Tad DiBiase's research shows they actually have an 86% conviction rate, higher than the national average. But in Union County, the case has stalled because the evidence, while troubling, hasn't reached the threshold needed for a trial. The challenge is stark. The legal system demands proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and the defense only needs to introduce uncertainty. In Patty's case, the boyfriend's actions look suspicious from every angle. He failed a polygraph, though Ohio courts don't allow those results in criminal trials. His alibi for the night after her disappearance kept shifting, and his financial situation improved dramatically just as Patty's accounts were being drained. But suspicion and motive aren't enough. Every piece of evidence, no matter how damning, can be explained away, at least in theory, by a defense attorney before a jury. The forensic trail is both compelling and frustrating. Cadaver dogs once alerted first to the bed of the boyfriend's truck, then to a freshly poured concrete slab near his garage. Cat hairs embedded in the truck's tonneau cover matched those from Patty's own pets, and there was that small blood spot on the cover, too tiny for DNA testing in 2001, but maybe potentially testable with today's technology. Still, without a body or a direct link tying the boyfriend to Patty's death, each clue remains a piece of a puzzle that doesn't quite fit together tightly enough for a conviction. Investigators have motive, opportunity, and a pattern of behavior that raises every possible red flag. Patty's money disappeared at the same time she did. The boyfriend removed the tonneau cover from his truck and quit his job at Honda, even though he was up for a promotion. He poured concrete in his yard soon after Patty vanished. These aren't the actions of someone unconcerned or uninvolved, yet none of these facts on their own, or even together, force a jury to reach a single, inescapable conclusion. The legal hurdle is high. Ohio law allows for prosecution without a body, and dozens of states have secured convictions in similar cases using only strong circumstantial evidence. But in this case, prosecutors are still waiting for one more piece: a breakthrough in forensic testing, a credible witness, or some form of physical evidence that ties the boyfriend directly to a crime. Until then, the case sits in limbo, with every new anniversary a reminder of what's still missing. Technology could still tip the balance. That blood spot on the tonneau cover, once untestable, could now hold the answer if retested using modern DNA methods. Ground-penetrating radar might reveal something beneath the concrete. Each new advance brings hope, but also highlights how crucial time is. Witnesses' memories fade, evidence deteriorates, and the window for a clean resolution narrows with every passing year. The human factor remains the wild card. Maybe someone who knows the truth will finally come forward. Maybe a coworker recalls a detail, or a friend decides to break their silence. Even now, tips trickle in whenever Patty's story surfaces, but so far, none have led to the missing piece. What's left is a case that feels agonizingly close to being solved, yet stubbornly out of reach. The evidence is there: the failed polygraph, the money trail, the forensic hints, and the sudden changes in the boyfriend's life. But until the last piece falls into place, the legal system can't move forward. And so, the story of Patti Adkins stays open, not just as an unsolved mystery, but as a warning about how trust and betrayal can collide, with consequences that ripple through a family, a community, and the years that follow. In the end, Patti Adkins' disappearance leaves us with questions that still echo after more than 2 decades. Her family awaits answers, while the evidence, like that small blood spot, the missing $90,000, and the failed polygraph, continues to point in one direction. Yet, the legal system needs more before it can act. If you know anything about Patty's case, contact Lieutenant Jeff Stiers at 937-645-4126 or the Union County Crime Tip Hotline at 937-642-7653. Central Ohio Crime Stoppers is offering a reward for information. If any detail rings a bell, drop a comment below or call in with tips. Where did Patti go? And can justice find her truth after more than 2 decades? Hey, thanks for sticking with me through another odd mystery. My name is Vince. If you enjoyed this story and want to help keep the channel going, consider buying me a coffee or joining the Patreon crew. Even a few bucks goes a long way toward uncovering more strange and unsolved cases. Patreon members get special recognition for subscribing. Some even see the research notes on what's coming next. And more members even help pick the next case. You'll find links in the description. Thanks again for watching. Stay curious and stay safe. Thank you.